A car consumed by flames concealed a dark and shocking secret, a tale of love, betrayal, and a tragic end that no one saw coming. Today, we delve into the twisted case of Rosa Peral, a body burning, a life destroyed. Love triangles, they say, never end well. They entangle everyone involved, drawing them into a destructive vortex of passion, jealousy, and deceit. The fates of those caught in such webs are sealed, often ending in heartbreak, loss, or worse. But for some, monogamy is viewed as an outdated concept, and love is free to roam without limits. Rosa Peral, our protagonist, embraced this philosophy, breaking hearts and destroying lives along the way. She wasn't just a player in this dangerous game. She was a master manipulator, expertly weaving relationships to her advantage, only to discard people when they no longer suited her needs. Rosa Maria Peral Vinula was born on October 15, 1985, in a modest suburb of Barcelona. The second child in her family, she grew up in a household that had migrated from Andalusia, seeking a better life in the bustling city. Rosa's mother, Maria, worked tirelessly as a homemaker, creating a warm and loving environment for her children. Her father, Francisco, worked as a security guard, providing for the family. Rosa's childhood was shaped by a close bond with her older brother, Paul, who protected and supported her through the ups and downs of life. To their neighbors, the Peral family seemed like the perfect picture of a united, happy household, always smiling and full of warmth. After graduating from high school, Rosa had big plans for her future. She enrolled at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona while preparing for the competitive entrance exams to the police academy in Ayala. At the time, she was in a relationship with Ruben, a young officer in the Barcelona City Guard. Ruben not only supported her emotionally, but also played a crucial role in helping her prepare for the academy's grueling selection process. Together, they studied for the talent detection test, the multiple choice exam, and the nerve-wracking oral interview. Though Rosa struggled with the physical test during her first attempt, her sheer determination carried her through. She didn't give up. She tried again, and this time, she passed. Rosa was officially accepted into the police academy, where she began her training to become a law enforcement officer. Rosa's career took off, and before long, she was highly valued in her service. With a steady income and a successful career, she was financially secure and living a comfortable life, free from financial worries. But as her professional life soared, her personal life began to spiral out of control. Behind the facade of a career-driven, successful woman, Rosa's hunger for power and control was slowly growing. She was an expert in keeping multiple relationships going at once, playing people like pawns in her carefully constructed game. But when a new love interest came into the picture, disaster was imminent. Rosa's manipulative nature was about to draw in even more victims, and the tangled web she had created would soon unravel in the most tragic and devastating way possible. Her story, marked by betrayal, lies, and violence, would come to define a case that captivated the entire nation. In the end, the question remained: how far would Rosa go for control? How much devastation could she cause before her dangerous game reached its final, fatal chapter? In early 2011, Rosa's colleagues started receiving strange emails containing personal photographs and videos. These images unveiled a dark secret. Despite being married, Rosa had been involved in intimate moments with her former lover, Junior Inspector Oscar Lefs, at their workplace. These private moments, exposed for the world to see, were not just an invasion of privacy, but a shocking act of betrayal, sending ripples through the entire police force. The fallout from the scandal shattered Rosa's life in ways she couldn't have imagined. her world spiraled out of control as her work, family life, and friendships crumbled under the weight of public judgment. Every move she made was scrutinized, and whispers of gossip spread like wildfire. What was once a simple, private existence had been torn apart, and Rosa could feel the eyes of the world upon her, dissecting her every action. As the scandal deepened, so did the transformation in Rosa's character. The warm, friendly woman who once lit up a room had become a shadow of her former self, bitter, defensive, and angry. But beneath this cold exterior was a woman fighting to protect herself, clinging to whatever dignity she had left amidst the storm of relentless harassment. The once vibrant relationships she had with colleagues and friends withered, as people judged her based on nothing more than whispers and assumptions. Yet, somehow, Rosa managed to hold on to her marriage with Ruben. But their bond, once full of love and trust, was now fragile, hanging by the thinnest thread. That thread finally snapped when a new, dangerous attraction entered her life. In mid-2012, another workplace romance set the stage for yet more chaos. Rosa's affair with Albert Lopez Ferrero, a colleague as enigmatic as he was temperamental, didn't stay hidden for long. Despite their best efforts to keep things under wraps, whispers of their illicit relationship quickly spread. But their relationship wasn't just about passion. It became entangled with their professional lives. Between 2011 and 2012, their abuse of power became undeniable, but the pair shielded each other from consequences, evading any serious repercussions. Albert was a man of few words, keeping to himself and rarely forming close bonds with anyone. His temper, sharp and unpredictable, was as notorious as his silence. His relationship with Rosa was complicated, to say the least. Though their physical attraction was undeniable, their connection lacked depth. Passion flickered between them, only to fade just as quickly, leaving behind an affair that stretched on for years without ever truly evolving. But neither of them seemed to care. They were content with the arrangement. Two souls bound by fleeting moments of desire and the dangerous thrill of forbidden love. Rosa's world was unraveling at an alarming speed. When Ruben finally decided to divorce her, it was the final straw in their tumultuous relationship. He had come to a painful realization: Rosa would never change. Her appetite for new romantic encounters was insatiable, and no matter how many times he forgave her, she would always seek the thrill of the forbidden. Yet unlike other messy breakups, theirs avoided the chaos of public outbursts and bitter confrontations, but the tension between them simmered just below the surface. Ruben, however, wasted no time moving on. He began a serious relationship with a woman named Antonia, who seamlessly integrated into his life, winning over not only his daughters, but also Rosa, of all people. Rosa, in an unexpected twist, found herself confiding in Antonia. She would call, pouring out her frustrations about everything: the pain of her broken marriage, her personal failures, and her struggles at work. Antonia listened patiently, offering comfort and even advice, never once showing resentment for the woman who had torn apart her new life. To Antonia, these conversations acted as a twisted confirmation that Ruben had finally cut ties with his past, and their future together was now clear of any lingering connections. But while Ruben and Antonia were building their lives together, Rosa's life was a swirling storm of new romances and old betrayals. The custody battle had left her with her daughters, while Ruben had the freedom to take them whenever he wanted, for weekends and holidays. This newfound freedom allowed Rosa to indulge in her next affair, Pedro Rodriguez. Pedro, a married man with a child, had been quietly pursuing her for some time. His devotion to her was almost obsessive, and when she finally returned his feelings, he abandoned his family without hesitation, all for the chance to be with her. However, there was a dangerous twist to this new romance. Pedro was Albert's close friend. When the news of their affair broke, Albert was furious. His jealousy ignited into a relentless fury, and he began tormenting Rosa, demanding answers, seeking the reasons behind her betrayal. In an attempt to calm the situation, Rosa faced Albert head-on. She tried to explain, but her words only fueled the fire. The undeniable chemistry between her and Albert still lingered, and despite her best efforts to move forward, a part of her was drawn back to him. The pull between them was magnetic, and neither could completely sever their connection. The drama escalated as Rosa and Pedro appeared to be living the dream. A beautiful engagement ring, a grand proposal, and their new life in a spacious Barcelona home painted a picture-perfect future. Yet, behind closed doors, Rosa's heart was torn. She could not ignore the pull of her past. Her secret rendezvous with Albert continued, with her pouring out her doubts about Pedro's shortcomings and expressing her unease about her future. The facade of happiness was fragile, and the tension between the two men in her life, Pedro, her fiancé, and Albert, her lover, was about to reach its breaking point. In a tangled web of deceit, love, and betrayal, Rosa's story was far from over. What had begun as a passionate affair had now become a deadly dance, each step closer to a devastating conclusion. In January 2017, Albert, once disinterested in long-term commitment, shocked everyone, especially Rosa, by proposing to her with a lavish ring. To everyone's surprise, she accepted, hiding the engagement from Pedro, her fiancé. The thrill of being pursued by two men simultaneously filled her with an intoxicating sense of power, and she reveled in her newfound status. She couldn't resist bragging about it to her closest friends, basking in the attention. But the honeymoon phase was short-lived. Pedro soon began to notice something was wrong. Rosa, who had once been so present, began disappearing for long stretches of time. Her behavior shifted, becoming erratic and secretive. She struggled to find excuses for her frequent meetups with Albert, and tension between them escalated rapidly. The couple began fighting constantly, and Pedro's fear for his safety grew as Rosa's aggression took a darker turn. He could feel it in the air. Something was dangerously off. Albert, fed up with the charade, revealed the affair to Pedro. The revelation sent shockwaves through their already fragile relationship. Rosa, cornered and desperate, confessed to her betrayal, offering a hollow explanation that Albert had manipulated her, coercing her into the affair with threats and pressure. She begged for forgiveness, promising it was a one-time lapse in judgment. Pedro, conflicted but unwilling to give up, chose to believe her, clinging to the hope that they could salvage their engagement and build a future together. But trust was shattered, and Pedro knew he couldn't let go of his suspicions. He began to follow Rosa's every move, tracking her phone calls, checking her social media, questioning her at every turn. Rosa, now seething with frustration, portrayed Pedro's jealousy as an unbearable burden. She claimed he was suffocating her, watching her every step, controlling every interaction. His behavior drove her further away, extinguishing any remnants of affection she might have had for him. Rosa, however, wasn't ready to end the engagement. Instead, she began to plot something far more sinister. Her plan was chilling. Rosa would eliminate Pedro entirely, and Albert would be the fall guy if things went wrong. She spent days carefully crafting her scheme, turning her rage into a twisted strategy for revenge. Rosa's motive was clear. This was no ordinary breakup. This was payback, a cruel act of retribution against Pedro and her ex-husband, Ruben, who was still embroiled in a bitter custody battle for their children. She knew exactly how to spin this to make it look like Ruben had orchestrated the attack. By mid-April 2017, Rosa and Albert had a chilling conversation. She laid out the plan in painstaking detail, outlining how they would remove Pedro in a way that would shift suspicion onto Ruben. Pedro, recovering from spinal surgery, was completely unaware of the lethal danger lurking around him. Rosa and Albert's plot took shape, and they rehearsed it over and over, adjusting for every possible contingency. The wheels were set in motion, and Rosa's mind was consumed with thoughts of executing the perfect crime. A life would be taken, trust would be shattered. The web of deceit, manipulation, and revenge was drawing tighter with every passing day. What had begun as a love triangle had now become a deadly game, a game where no one would escape unscathed. On the night of April 30th, Rosa prepared a seemingly perfect farewell dinner for Pedro. The candles flickered in the dimly lit room as they shared laughs, exchanged smiles, and savored the last moments of normalcy. Pedro, blissfully unaware, believed the evening was just another peaceful night in their life together. Little did he know, he was sharing his final meal. The following morning, Rosa continued her charade, spending the day with Pedro as if nothing was amiss. They went shopping, casually visited Rosa's parents, and even dropped by her ex-husband's house to pick up the children. The facade of normalcy was seamless, until they returned home, where the deadly game would unfold. Rosa fed the children, ushered them upstairs, and then, with chilling precision, began the dark act that would forever change everything. She laced Pedro's food with a potent drug, watching as its effects took hold, paralyzing his senses and slowly dulling his awareness. He had no idea what was happening. His body grew heavy, his mind clouded, and he fell into a stupor, easy prey for the nightmare Rosa had planned. What happened next remained shrouded in mystery, but a horrifying revelation would soon emerge. Rosa's daughter, in a state of shock, later claimed to have witnessed her mother pushing Pedro down the stairs, his body crashing violently into the steps, his life slipping away in a terrifying moment of brutal violence. After the deed was done, Rosa and Albert disposed of Pedro's lifeless body. They shoved him into a rented car and drove through the empty roads to a desolate marshland far outside the city. The air was thick with tension. Questions of whether Pedro was still alive as they placed him in the car, or if his body had already succumbed to the violence, haunted their every step. Rosa and Albert set the car alight, the flames licking at the night sky, consuming the car and everything inside. And when they returned home, Rosa's demeanor shifted once again, now desperate, distraught, and frantic, as she reached out to Pedro with a series of tearful calls and desperate messages, pretending that she was searching for him. The following morning, Rosa concocted a false narrative, calling her father and Pedro's friends and family, her voice trembling with faux grief as she spun the tale of a huge argument. She claimed Pedro had ended their engagement in a fit of rage, storming off in his car, leaving her behind in utter despair. Days passed with no word from Pedro. But on May 4th, the horrifying truth began to emerge. A young cyclist, pedaling along the desolate road, stumbled upon a burned car. Inside, the charred remains of a body lay in the wreckage. Investigators were able to identify the remains through the titanium plate in Pedro's spine, which confirmed the unthinkable: Pedro was dead. The fire was not an accident. It had been deliberately set. And worse yet, the evidence suggested that Pedro had either been unable to escape or was already lifeless when the car was set ablaze. The case quickly escalated into a full-blown investigation, a confidential inquiry that sent shockwaves through the city. After the remains were confirmed to be Pedro's, the police quickly arrived at Rosa's house to deliver the devastating news. She put on a perfect act, feigning shock and grief, but the mask quickly slipped, revealing a disturbing calmness beneath. As the officers asked their routine questions, she remained cool and collected. When they requested her presence at the police station, Rosa refused, citing her children's need for her and blocking them from entering her home, all the while careful not to raise any suspicions in front of her daughters. However, she didn't hesitate to drop a bombshell accusation. Rosa suggested that her ex-husband, Ruben, might be involved in Pedro's death, driven by jealousy over their past relationship. Her accusation sent Ruben straight to the top of the list of suspects. But his alibi quickly cleared him. He had been in another city with Antonia, visiting her parents, after picking up the children from Rosa's house. With Ruben out of the picture, all eyes turned to Rosa herself. She eventually agreed to go to the police station and shockingly suggested that her former lover, Albert, might be the one who killed Pedro. However, Albert's testimony turned the investigation on its head. He revealed that Rosa had been the mastermind, meticulously plotting Pedro's murder. Albert described how she drugged Pedro, rendering him vulnerable and incapacitated, making him an easy target for whatever happened next. With this bombshell, Rosa was arrested, and her carefully constructed world began to unravel. As the investigation unfolded, Rosa and Albert each tried to shift the blame onto the other. Their conflicting stories only added to the complexity of the case. Mobile phone data and tracking showed that Albert had been near the scene of the crime on the night Pedro was murdered. Rosa's desperate attempts to cover her tracks began to fall apart. In February 2020, their trial finally began. Rosa tried to paint herself as a victim, but Albert's defense team turned the tables, portraying her as the manipulator behind the crime. They argued that Albert had merely helped dispose of the body, while Rosa orchestrated the entire plan, pulling the strings with calculated precision. Antonia, now raising the children with Ruben, also took the stand, confirming that Rosa's older daughter had witnessed her mother push Pedro down the stairs, covered in blood. However, despite the chilling testimony, the child's statement wasn't fully acknowledged. Rosa vehemently denied the accusations, claiming that Antonia was lying out of jealousy, trying to see her locked away forever. By March 2020, both Rosa and Albert were convicted of premeditated murder and obstruction of justice. Rosa was sentenced to 25 years in prison, while Albert received 20 years. The court also ordered them to pay nearly 100,000 euros in damages to Pedro's family. In 2022, while behind bars, Rosa's twisted plans resurfaced. She attempted to hire someone to murder Ruben and Antonia, hoping to manipulate the custody of her children. She believed that if Ruben were out of the picture, her parents would gain custody, and her children could still visit her without interference. Fortunately, her plot was uncovered before it could be carried out. Rosa's story sparked widespread attention, inspiring documentaries and series that explored the complexity of her character, both a victim of circumstances and a cold-blooded perpetrator of crime. The case of Rosa, Pedro, and Albert serves as a haunting reminder of how easily love, jealousy, and betrayal can spiral into something terrifying. It raises crucial questions about truth, justice, and the importance of examining the full story before making judgments. How do you feel about the way stories like Rosa's are shared with the world? Do you think the justice system always delivers fairness? What impact do media portrayals have on our understanding of such cases? Let's talk about it. Your thoughts can help deepen the conversation and bring more awareness to the complexities of justice. Hit the subscribe button for more thrilling stories.